Hello everyone. Welcome to the history of ...
On this show, we'll be learning about everything and anything, from the unexpected origins all the way up to what it is now.
Each week, we will have a category, and then each of us will be talking about an item, event, or something of our choosing and sharing a little history about it.
And our favorite fact, that's something we found the most interesting about the topic we chose, will be featured as a Did You Know fact. All right, let's get into it. But before we begin, here's a little introduction from us, your lovely knowledge sharers.
Hello, my name is Jenna, and my credentials involve being a kid. Therefore, I'm qualified to talk about kids' toys.
Hi there, my name is Susan, and I too at one point was a child, so I think I too can talk about kids' toys.
And hello, it's me, your third host, Nadine, and I'm a certified player, not of people's hearts, but of the different toys I got as presents.
For today's episode, we will be talking about the history of children's toys.
All right, to start us off, let me tell you all about the history of crayons. Before I do talk about it, let me address what I thought the elephant in the room was. Apparently, yes, crayons can be and are toys. I had to fact check myself after not so kindly being addressed by someone in this very room that it was considered a toy because I thought otherwise. Moving on, something I'm not inclined to do because I do hold grudges, yes. You're actually in for a treat. I've got some interesting Crayola lore for you. This isn't sponsored, by the way, but it could be. Crayola, call us. So, the modern crayon was born in Europe, according to records most likely not written in crayon. The first crayons were made from a mix of oil and charcoal. Later on, instead of using charcoal, powdered pigments of various hues were used to create the different colors that we see now. A discovery was made that substituting wax for the oil in the crayon mixture would make them easier to handle and sturdier too. Before 1903, when the crayon had its debut, you probably would have seen children carrying around sticks of colored clay or chalk. It was a really simple writing tool or toy that could be used on paper, but you wouldn't be seeing anything too spectacular. That's where Binney and Smith came in. Owned by Edwin Binney and C. Harold Smith, these two were cousins who co-owned the small 21-year-old firm where Crayola crayons were born. Before that, they were already in the color-making business, though. They owned rights to what made the red paint used by most farmers in their barns, and also sold the colors lamp black and white chalk. You typically see lamp black on tires. They also gave themselves credit for solving the centuries-old problem of making a really black-colored black inexpensively. They even won a gold medal for it in 1900 in Paris for that display. They also won another gold medal at 1904 for their invention of a dustless blackboard chalk. They also made and sold slate pencils. Safe to say, America's classrooms were frequent customers of Binney and Smith's products. The day came when their classrooms became even more colorful and bright. Alice Stead Binney, the wife of co-founder Edwin Binney, and a former school teacher, suggested that they manufacture a more inexpensive alternative to the imported crayons around the early 1900s. So these crayons were made primarily using paraffin wax and a colored pigment. The brand and term Crayola was coined by Alice Binney too, from the French word cray, meaning a stick of chalk, and ola, originating from the word oleaginous. Yeah, definition oily. So how are the crayons produced? The formulas for the non-toxic pigments and the wax, and why the crayons smell as unique as they do, is apparently a closely guarded secret. Speaking of the familiar scent of crayons, a study by Yale University once ranked them as the 18th in a list of 20 most recognizable scents to adults. Among all the smells and scents that's probably on that list, I'd say 18 is a pretty solid ranking. Plus, it's my favorite color. So yes, of course I'm biased. Anyways, we do know the basics of how crayons are made at least, despite the closely guarded secret thing. Natural sources like slate, iron, and different kinds of earth materials start off being pounded, then ground, then sieved, then refined, and then heated. That's a lot. The temperature used to heat the materials will determine the shades of the color. Since 1903, more than 600 shades have been produced by Crayola crayons. Did you know the first box ever sold by Crayola contained 8 crayons and it was sold for as little as 5 cents? It was produced in 1903 and contained the colors red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, brown, and black. That's approximately less than $1.50 in today's money. So, we all know Crayola for their unique nicknames for each of their different shades and colors. Well, here are a couple of facts that I found pretty amusing. In 1900, prior to the introduction of Crayola crayons, Binney and Smith produced black marking crayons. They were created with dry carbon black and different types of waxes. Today, these are known as Stannell's brand marking crayons, and they can be found in many industrial settings. Indian red was the third Crayola color ever having to been renamed because although it referred to red pigment from India, sensitivity to the unintended meaning needed and required a new name. Chestnut was a name chosen by customers, seeming kind of basic compared to what came in close second, baseball mitt brown. So I have to give my vote to baseball mitt brown instead of chestnut brown. And why, you ask? Well, that's a very simple explanation. Alliteration. And it has my heart and soul, and I know Jenna would agree with me.
Alliterations are like the best thing on this earth.
Exactly. Period. In 1958, the color Prussian blue was renamed to midnight blue because most children have never heard of Prussia. I mean, I know it exists, but I can't tell you where. Isn't it just Russia? Probably not. In 1962, the color peach was changed from the name flesh. It was changed to be more inclusive because, as we know, skin does come in more than that one color. Obviously, as your lovely hosts, I asked my co-hosts what their favorite Crayola colors were. So Jenna's is blue-green, and Susan's is peacock blue. Cool colors. I love the blues. Feel a little blue myself, but anyways, my favorite Crayola color is Purple Mountain's Majesty. But this comes in a close second because of the word itself, razzmatazz. Okay, in 1984, Crayola was bought by Hallmark Cards and has been playing a significant role in their company's development strategies. It wasn't until 2007 when the company, Binney and Smith, changed their name officially to Crayola, reflecting the #1 brand among the products they sold. The Crayola brand celebrated its 100th anniversary in 2003, and today they manufacture over 3 billion crayons each year. That's a lot of crayons. I know when I used to grow up, I'm still growing up, sorry. When I was a kid, I loved coloring with colored pencils, not pencil crayons.
They're crayon.
They're not the same thing. But how about you guys? Did you use a lot of crayons when you were growing up?
I was the occasional crayon user, but I was known to use pencil crayons more than anything. What about you, Susan?
I too used a lot of pencil crayons. Yeah, I wasn't big on crayons. I don't love the feeling of them, so the pencil crayons are a lot better, and it is pencil crayons.
It's a pencil crayon.
Colored pencils, okay, guys?
Anyway, if I were to use a crayon, it would be the Twistables. They're so much more
I
fun.
love
those were good.
Twistables.
I
So much more
actually
fun.
really love those
They were.
ones.
They were so great.
I miss
Speaking
those
of
ones.
color, let's talk about another colorful toy that started off with something everyone loves, potatoes.
Now, the original idea for Mr. Potato Head was invented by a man named George Lerner in 1949. He used a potato along with fruits and veggies to make facial features to make dolls for his younger sisters. He was approached by toy companies, but the idea was quickly rejected because it included sharp objects and they didn't really want that around children. The war and food rationing were a recent memory for everyone, so it was also considered irresponsible and a waste to use food as toys. Later, Lerner sold his idea to a food company for $5,000 to be used as a cereal box toy. 2 years later, in 1951, Lerner approached the Hassenfeld brothers, aka Hasbro, with his idea. Realizing the toy was unique and unlike anything on the shelves, the brothers paid the cereal company $2,000 to stop the supply and another $5,000 for the rights. It then got named Mr. Potato Head, and it started to be produced.
Hey, it's Hasbro. Hasbro makes toys. What's new, Hasbro?
Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head with their own cars and trailers. That's what's new. See, Mr. Potato Head has a car and boat trailer. And there's a car and shopping trailer for his wife, Mrs. Potato Head. It's such fun to do and so easy. Like this. Take any fruit or vegetable. Just stick in eyes, then ears, and then the mouth. You can make the funniest looking people in the whole world. Potato Head people look different every time you make them. Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head with cars and trailers come in $1 and $2 sizes.
What else is new, Hasbro?
A vanity case with toy cosmetics and beautiful accessories and real-looking doctor and nurse kits.
Hasbro makes great toys. It's fun to play with Hasbro.
Mr. Potato Head was then born on May 1st, 1952. It would run you up a total of 98 cents for the original pack of facial features. The original production included hands, feet, ears, 2 mouths, 2 pairs of eyes, 4 noses, 3 hats, glasses, a pipe, and 8 felt pieces resembling facial hair. It didn't include the potato body, as you were supposed to use an actual potato. Shortly after the release, you could buy the kits with an additional 50 pieces. On April 30th of that year, Mr. Potato Head became the first toy to be advertised on TV. It was also the first commercial aimed at children. Prior to this, all ads were aimed at adults. The commercial revolutionized marketing and caused an industrial boom. Over 1 million kits were sold in the first year of production. And the potato family grew over the next year, and it then featured Mrs. Potato Head, Brother Spud, and Sister Yam. Apparently, the family also got some money over the year because they now had extra accessories such as a car, a boat trailer, and a kitchen set, a stroller, and pets called Spudettes. I think that's a fun name.
That's cute.
In the 60s, people started to complain about rotting vegetables and sharp plastic. The government's new safety regulations resulted in a plastic potato body being included in the kits to replace the potatoes. Then, in 1975, the US government introduced new safety regulations once again for kids' toys. Because of these regulations, Mr. Potato Head and his accessories doubled in size. The size change resulted in market for younger children because the pieces were no longer a choking hazard. In the 80s, Hasbro reduced the range of accessories to 1 kit, and then Mr. Potato Head made his big break in the world. He received 4 votes in a run for mayor in Idaho. This was the most votes of Mr. Potato Head in a political campaign, and it was verified by the Guinness World Records. A few years later, he became the spokespud for the annual Great American Smokeout and retired his pipe. In 1995, he made his Hollywood debut with the leading role in Disney Pixar animated movie Toy Story, followed by Toy Story 2 and 3. 5 years later, Mr. Potato Head was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame in Rochester, New York. In 2006, Hasbro began selling sets of pieces without the potato body so that customers could once again add accessories to their collections. Theme sets were also released. They included topics such as mermaid, rock star, a pirate, a firefighter, a princess, and many more. Hasbro also introduced a line called Sport Spuds, which featured a smaller potato body customized with a wide range of professional and collegiate teams. Themed characters were also released, and they have a great names. Personal favorites, Darth Tater, Spider Spud, Luke Skywalker, but there are many more. Mr. Potato Head continues his career by featuring in video games. Did you know the original Mr. Potato Head had an actual body?
An actual body?
He had a body.
I guess what makes sense. It is Potato Head, right? So having a body is.
But the whole point is that his head is the body.
Yeah,
He's just a head.
I think that's a really odd that they added on a body to it, and then basically like sticking on this tiny little body onto a massive potato must look ridiculous.
It's so creepy to look at too.
So creepy.
I don't like that at all.
Now,
like it.
I can't say that I would have ever thought to play with the potato, but I did try to eat a raw one time as a kid.
A raw potato, like an apple.
Yeah, just bit into it like it was an apple.
And how did that taste?
It was awful.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Did you at least peel it?
I peeled the part that I ate yet. My grandma told me I shouldn't, but I was like, I want a potato and I want it now.
You could have waited for it to get baked or mashed now.
No, what can you say? Your girl loves potatoes.
No, to be fair, I really liked actually having a Mr. Potato Head, and I really like when they came out with Mrs. Potato Head. I'd have them as like the cute little couple. And I also kind of love the feature that the body is actually the container for all the parts.
Yeah.
That was kind of a neat feature I like about Mr. Potato Head.
It's pretty cool. I never really owned any Mr. Potato Head toys as a kid. I've only seen them in Toy Story, like you said. That's my only experience with Mr. Potato Head, just watching them on screen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now that I think of it, Mr. Potato Head falls under the category of one toy that I have just never liked, which is dolls. Dolls have always creeped me out. I've always thought they were dirty and germy. Why? I couldn't tell you. But with that being said, let's learn how the creepy things came to be.
Most little girls were introduced to dolls at a young age. It's a way to get them to find that motherly instinct and get the idea of how to care for something without actually hurting something. So have you ever actually wondered where dolls came from? Now, the first discovery of dolls came from ancient Egypt. These dolls are now known as paddle dolls. They date back to 2000 BC and were found among the tombs in ancient Egypt. They were created by carving petals and adding on strings as hair and painting on little decorations. The use of these dolls was actually unknown, whether it was for something to collect or for children to actually play with, not too known. Though we do know a little bit more about dolls from ancient Greece. Now, these dolls date back to 200 BC and have more like longer limbs and are showing a little more of a human shape to them. These dolls were created using clay, wood, or ivory, with clothes sometimes being made from rags around. Their limbs would be attached by ropes, making them more mobile and able to move. They were found created as toys for children to be playing. Now, they were first discovered being buried with children who had died, dressed up in the fashion trends of that time. So if skirts were in, they were wearing skirts. Dresses, that's kind of what the dolls would be dressed as. So many times the children would give their dolls to honor a goddess of their choice once they got married, as a way to kind of show that they've grown up and kind of moved past that. So now let's head to ancient Japan, where we have a few variety of dolls. So kokeshi dolls are a lovely wood-carved dolls that were widespread throughout ancient Japan. These dolls were hand-carved and painted for kids to play with and collect. The detail of the dolls was beautiful and used more now as a decorative piece than for playing. But dolls weren't always just to play with. In many cultures, they were used in religious ceremonies and as a way to protect people. Now, dolls such as the Hina dolls were created for protection. The people believed that these dolls would watch over them and keep them safe. These beautiful dolls were all handmade and adorned shelves of most families' homes, warding off all negative energy and spirits. These dolls aren't as commonly found anymore, but were quite the big deal back in the day. Now, stepping away a little bit from Japan, let's take a look at some dolls from Africa. Now, originally, dolls from Africa were mainly used as voodoo dolls. These dolls were known more as effigies, and they were meant to have magical properties and were a way to perform magic spells to ward off people. These dolls were made, so then after that, we kind of got into dolls that were made to curse people and much less of children's toys that we see today. Nowadays, dolls come to share their culture. The colorful outfits and they represent how they dress, more typical African style. They are more common to be made and sold in markets as something beautiful to show off.
Barbie, you're beautiful. You make me feel my Barbie doll is really real. Barbie's small and so petite. Her clothes and figure look so neat. Her dancing outfit rings the bell. At parties she will cast a spell. Purses, hats, and gloves galore. And all the gadgets gals adore.
Barbie dressed for swim and fun is only $3. Her lovely fashions range from $1 to $5. Look for Barbie wherever dolls are sold.
Someday I'm gonna be exactly like you. Till then I know just what I'll do. Barbie, beautiful Barbie. I'll make believe that I am you.
You can tell it's Mattel.
All of you probably know what a Barbie is, and some of you may have even seen the new Barbie movie starring Margot Robbie as Barbie, as she has come to be the most popular doll to this day. Now, Ruth Handler created the idea of Barbie in 1959, which didn't start quite as popular as it has come to now. She's named after her niece Barbara as her nickname Barbie, and she then began to sell the toys in New York at a toy fair, but it actually took a little bit longer than you think to gain traction. But once she did, Mattel's most selling doll has gained the major popularity among kids as a way that they can be who they really want to be, trying to show a doll that can be any career or have any life that a little girl may dream about. Now, did you know dolls are documented as the oldest known toy? Though they may have not had the same style you see now, but the evolution has come a long way to become what we really know now as dolls. From paddle dolls to religious protectors, dolls have come a long way from being made out of wood, clay, to the plastic dolls we see today. I hope you learned a little something about dolls and have come throughout history.
It's so surprising.
Well,
We'll just vibe a bit, sorry.
that's all the history we have this week, guys.
We hope you learned that history can be more interesting than the high school history classes have led you to believe.
Tune in next week and learn about history of fashion.
Bye.